Welcome in, everybody, to another rendition of SEC Mafia. We hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas. Hope you got everything on your wish list to Santa. Um, I know I did. I hope your bellies were full of food. The gifts were great. The games were fun. Speaking of games, got a big week this week. Second round coming up of the new and improved, as we've been saying, improved 12-team playoff quarterfinals coming up. A couple of SEC teams in that we're going to talk about. A couple of other bowl matchups we need to review, and a couple of others to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's get to it.
Of course, jump right in. As always, we got to rep the set here. A little SEC Mafia contact information. Our X handle there below at SEC Godfather. Email is secgodfather@gmail.com. Our Facebook group page, please, everyone look that up and join, is SEC Mafia. Nothing in between, nothing after, just SEC Mafia. Get in there and join the group, comment, whatever you like. It's a family-friendly ordeal. We like to keep everything rated G here. As always, YouTube, man, that's the biggest one. That's what we post our videos and podcasts to. Make sure you subscribe. Please subscribe. Go on our page. Click the little bell too. When you go on our page to subscribe, click the little bell, the notifications bell. That way, every time we drop a video or we do a reel or do something, anything like that on YouTube, you can get them a notification and you can be one of the first ones to get on there and comment. Really appreciate it on our last video, all the comments. Love interacting with all of you guys. Please continue to comment, like, and subscribe on everything.
Yeah, the SEC Mafia group page on Facebook, that is completely public. Anyone can join that. Anyone can invite anyone to that. There's no criteria to join that. We've had some decent success with everyone getting on the Facebook page and predicting our scores and commenting and things like that. So that seems to be the best social media platform that's kind of taken off. So please, join that Facebook group, invite others to that.
Absolutely. And with that, we turn our eyes to the horizons of Atlanta between the Texas Longhorn and the Arizona State Sun Devils. This is the second time these two teams have met, and the last time coming in 2007 in the Holiday Bowl, which is not even around anymore, with Texas getting a dub all the way back in 2007, 52-34.
Yeah, there's a lot of smack talk coming from Arizona this week. I know their quarterback, Sam Levitt's come out and said he is going to prove he's the best quarterback on the field. Cam Scadaboo's come out and said that there is no one that can stop me. We'll see. That is pretty much the strength of this Texas team is their run defense, as they are only averaging giving up 104 yards per game. So it will be interesting to see if Texas can indeed slow down Cam Scadaboo and that vaunted rushing attack that has gotten Arizona State this far.
Absolutely. As far as run stopping, Texas is one of those teams that, how we talked about a couple of weeks ago, with mediocre play and the way that their defense is elite, mediocre offensive play can win them ball games. But I think this is going to be a complete opposite. I think you're going to see kind of like a couple of weeks ago, how sort of Texas's offense kind of opened up a little bit, gained ground on Clemson. Arizona State's defense allows 423 yards of offense a game. That's their average. That is atrocious. And Texas averages 448 yards a game. So I'm interested to see what sort of game plan Sark has against this style of offense that Arizona State runs. I do believe that Texas is going to be able to do whatever they want to against Arizona State. I don't think they'll be able to stop Trey Wisner. Isaiah Bond is fully healthy. We know he's been battling some ankle issues here lately. He's only had 4 catches in the last 3 games. I think you need to keep your eyes on him this week. And I do think that he's holding on to Arch. It seems like he's waiting for the right moment to put that out there on the field and to really throw that package out in there. And I don't know if it'll be this week. I don't know if he's holding out for further along in the playoff, but I do think that Quinn Ewers is the guy. I mean, he's over 2,800 passing yards this season. Completion percentage is right at 60%, I think. So I think they're going to be able to do whatever they want to on offense this week.
If they get to a point to where they need a spark,
yes,
and we don't see Arch Manning, I think that tells us something in itself. Maybe that tells us that Sark does not have the confidence in him. If you go back to the first time they played Georgia in the regular season, when Georgia jumped out on them early by a couple of scores, he threw Arch Manning in there trying to create a spark. It really did not work. So since then, it has seemed like Sark has not been as quick to go to him in those situations when you think, okay, maybe he could bring him in and run an RPO or run a zone read or do something with him to create a spark. He has seemed more hesitant. As we get going further and further in these playoffs, the more that Sark holds that back, the more it could be telling that maybe he doesn't have the confidence in Arch Manning that we all think he should have in him.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
To me, the key stat that I see when I go over this, and I had to look at this 2 or 3 times to make sure I wasn't missing something here. Arizona State's offense has only turned the ball over 8 times this season. 8 times. If they go through this football game turnover free, and they can somewhat stop Texas's run game and put the pressure on Quinn Ewers, they will have a path to victory.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tall order, especially the way Texas has been running the football against everyone not named Georgia on their schedule here lately.
Yep, absolutely.
Another thing that I think Arizona State will not do, and Clemson come out and did this. Clemson came out in the first round playoff game against Texas, and Clemson came in with the mindset that we're not just satisfied that we're here. If we go down, we're going to go down swinging, and we're going to throw everything we've got at you. And that was one of the better offensive performances against a good defense that we had seen from Clemson all year. That's one thing I think you can say about Dillingham from Arizona State. I think they're going to come out here full guns blazing, nothing to lose, and throw anything and everything that they've got at Texas. They're not just going to be glad that they made it. Can Texas blow them out? Yes, I do think Texas can and will eventually pull away from them. But I do think that Arizona State's going to come in here throwing everything they've got. They're not just going to be glad to be here.
I think that as well. But another key stat that I look at when going over this game is Arizona State's defense has only gotten 20 sacks on the year. Yes. Whereas Texas's defense has 41 sacks on the year. I think they're up there. I don't know if they're number 1 in FBS, but I know they're up there leading the SEC. They're 1 or 2 in SEC. And like we always talk about, if you were able to force pressure onto the opposing team's quarterback and force turnovers, that's going to lead you to the path of victory. And Texas's defense and their defensive line is bukus ahead of Arizona State's. I just don't see them putting pressure on Quinn Ewers at all. I mean, I want to say that they have every starter available this game on offensive line, I think is what I heard this week. So I think that with Texas's O-line and D-line, that they will put pressure. They will be able to stop the run against Arizona State, and I've got Texas in this one. I got them to cover. 13.5 favorite right now. I think they cover that, and I think it's going to be somewhere like 28-13.
Yeah, this is one of those with, you always hear when it comes down to these football games that the games are won and lost in the trenches. Arizona State, they're going to want to get Scatterbo going. Texas, they're going to want to get Wisner going. Both teams are going to want to get their ground games going. You're going to know from the get-go. You're going to know pretty early, can Arizona State hold up in the trenches with Texas?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they can. I do like Scatterbo. I do think he's a great back. I do think he is a physical runner. I just don't think they're ready for this Texas defense. I agree with you. I have Texas covering 31-17.
There you go. Big time. Horns up this week, baby. Next one for the SEC and the CFP. We got them Dogs versus Notre Dame. Now, this is the third meeting all time. Ironically enough, the last meeting was in 1981 in the Sugar Bowl, same bowl game they're going to this year, to which the Dogs won the Natty. That was their first Natty, led by none other than running back
Herschel Walker.
Herschel Walker. There you go. This is interesting because it's odd to see Georgia not favored this week, looking through lines and stuff like that, and it's like, that's odd, But then you see headlines this week to where Carson Beck is getting surgery. Carson Beck's declaring for the draft. He's not going to be available. What's your take on the line shifting towards Notre Dame with Beck being out and Gunnar Stockton being your starter?
I don't know. I know we've only seen Gunnar Stockton for a little over a half in the SEC championship game. It really looked to me like when Gunnar Stockton came into the football game that the team rallied around him. Now I don't know if there's something going on, locker room wise, and guys were like, you know what, we're glad Beck's out. We really like Gunnar Stockton more. I don't know if guys thought, you know what, we've got to pick it up because Beck's out. We can't rely on Beck to bail us. I don't know. But it looked to me like Gunnar Stockton provided a spark. One thing I noticed from the kid, he will put his head down and try his best to run through a brick wall. I mean, there's no fear in this young man. He made some big-time throws, made some big-time plays with his legs. I think Georgia's fine in this situation.
I do too. Notre Dame took a big loss on their defensive line this week. Riley Mills, number 99, he got hurt in the first playoff game. He was a starter for the defensive line, so they are without two of their starters. I know another starter got hurt back in October. They were without two starters on the defensive line, so it's going to be up to depth on that defensive line. I do think that Georgia's offensive line way more physical up front. The keys for me this week, looking at it, with Carson Beck being out, it comes down to two things for me, and that is penalties and red zone efficiency. And here's the reason why I say red zone efficiency, because penalties is an obvious. Do the little things right, extend your plays, do not get yourself in negative field position to where you force Gunnar Stockton out of his comfort zone, having to make deep passes. But here's what I mean with red zone efficiency. With Beck being out, will this hurt the big play ability? Like you said, Gunnar Stockton is able to make plays with his arm, but the spark that he really carried was putting his head down in the run game and sort of giving a dual threat with him and Trevor Etienne in the backfield. So that's what I mean with red zone efficiency. Are they going to be able to lengthen drives if they get into third and long? Will they be able to, once they make it to the red zone, not kick a field goal and actually extend it on into the end zone? I mean, we know we saw back and forth with Texas and Georgia. Will this hurt the big playability, and will they be able to extend plays to get in the end zone when it matters?
Yeah, and one thing that Notre Dame had in their favor, it looked like Indiana came into the game in the first round playoffs and said, we're not as good as Notre Dame. We're not as talented as Notre Dame. We want to grind this out, shorten it out, try to get to the fourth quarter and give ourselves a chance to win. And that's just not what Indiana's done all year long. They just didn't come out fearless, slinging the ball around like they had done all year long, and it blew up in their face. When they got behind late in the fourth quarter and they just started letting everything fly, then they started mounting a little bit of a comeback. Georgia can't do that. Georgia can't go into this football game with the backup quarterback and say, we're going to let our defense win this game for us. We're going to go easy. We're going to take it slow. We're going to ease him into this thing, because Notre Dame is good enough. Jeremiah Love is an outstanding running back. We saw the 99-yard touchdown he had against Indiana. They've got big play capability. To me, you just can't go into this football game thinking that we're just going to ease him into it and kind of, wait for Notre Dame to make a mistake. Now, here's some insight that you're not going to get on some of these other shows. Okay. We do our research here. We know what's going on. Here's a key stat. You mentioned about red zone efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame, 10 of 21 less than 50%, 47.6%, 10 of 21 on field goal attempts this year. Georgia 20 of 22 on field goal attempts this season. If the Georgia defense can bow up in the red zone and they can force Notre Dame into some 35, 40, 45-yard field goals, there's a 50-50 chance it's going to be a miss. Yep. Now, they will be kicking indoors as this is played in the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans, so there won't be any kind of, wind or any kind of weather factor, but, still less than 50% field goal efficiency. For me, with Trevor Etienne being fully healthy, Georgia having time to prepare with the backup quarterback and having the key advantage in special teams, I look for special teams to be the difference in this one. I'm saying Dogs 27-24.
It's, this is one of those games to where you look at the QB across on the other team, and Riley Leonard is good. Don't get me wrong, but with 18 interceptions on the year, that's not just him, but that's in total. No.
Shout out to my LA brother, Lower Alabama. I'm from Mobile, and my boy Riley Leonard from Baldwin County, neighboring counties in Lower Alabama. So that is one good thing that they've got going for them.
My bad. Not 18, but 8 on the year, and that is him. I do think that Georgia's defensive line is good enough to put pressure on him to force him to make mistakes, especially with Malachi Starks. What's his name? Anyway, Malachi Starks and the other defensive backs, I do look to them to create turnovers this week. I do look to Georgia to sack Riley Leonard multiple times this game. Georgia's defensive line has played phenomenal the last couple of weeks. Or the last week that we saw him in the SEC championship game. And like you said, special teams will be key. Field position in this game and time of possession is going to be key. You got to give me them Dogs this week, baby. And I think it's going to be closer than people are expecting. I don't think it's going to come down to anything last minute. But I do think it's going to be somewhere in the range of 24-17 with the Dogs winning.
One thing that does concern me, I can't get it out of my mind, is how well Haynes King and Georgia Tech just absolutely put it all over Georgia's defense. That still is in the back of my mind. Riley Leonard and Haynes King, those guys kind of resemble each other in the way they play. They have the ability to make plays with their legs. That opens up the passing game for them. They're kind of not your traditional quarterbacks that are going to drop back and throw. The running game for them and causing defenses to have to stack the box and spy them opens up the passing game. That is a concern of mine going into this for Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Who's that coming down the track, baby? All right, next up on the slate, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide against the Michigan Wolverines in the ReliaQuest Bowl, baby. Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida, 11 a.m. tomorrow. Prime time position, baby. Only their 6th meeting. They are tied 3-3. This is a rematch of last year's OT thriller in the Rose Bowl, where the Michigan Wolverines won 27-20.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, all 6 meetings between these two teams have come in the postseason. They've all come down to one possession for the most part. One thing that I think Alabama's got going for them, I've not heard of any opt-outs. Now, I do know Devontae Smith, starting safety, he has transferred out, transferred to Notre Dame. Obviously, he will not be available. Michigan has a plethora starting offensive lineman, starting tight end, running back, defensive lineman. I mean, they've got 5 or 6 starters that have opted out. When you look at everyone on Alabama's side taking this game seriously, even though it's not a playoff game, even though Alabama's going to be upset, feelings hurt, disappointed, there's still the streak of 17 straight 10-win seasons that's on the line. I've heard in a lot of interviews, player interviews, guys have mentioned that. They're saying they're taking this game serious. If they're taking this game serious, with all the opt-outs that Michigan's got, there's no reason for this to be close.
No, I mean, when you look at the opposite side here, you have Tyler Booker who's playing, Ryan Williams who's playing, Jeremy Bernard who's playing, Jalen Milroe who's playing, and Michigan is without their starting running back.
And second string running back. First and second
Donovan,
string.
Donovan Edwards, Khalil Mullings are both out, and they're without their leading receiver in Colson Loveland, the tight end with 56 catches, 5 touchdowns, 588 yards. 5 O linemen are out. I mean, this shouldn't even be a contest. I mean, on paper,
this should not be a contest. And the thing about it is, Michigan's offense has been handicapped all season long. Even in their wins, their offense has been handicapped. They have won on defense, and with their best defensive players out, that should bode well for Alabama. But I've got one game in my mind from this season that sticks out like a sore thumb that this reminds me of. You want to guess? Oklahoma. I mean, you played Oklahoma, who had not had the same offensive line starting all season. All of their receivers were out, defensive guys banged up. And what happened? They came out with an absolute beautiful defensive game plan. They were able to stop the running of Jalen Milroe. If you stop his legs, he's a lot like Riley Leonard and Haynes King. When he gets his legs going, that kind of puts him in the groove that opens up the passing game for him. He was never able to get in that rhythm. He was never able to get anything going. They had a great game plan and kept the ball away from Alabama. He had the 2 terrible turnovers that led to 10 points for Oklahoma, and we all saw what the score was. This reminds me of that. If I mean, as an Alabama fan, I'm telling you, I am 110% concerned about it, and there's no reason that we should be.
Yeah, well, you're concerned about every game.
Every
game. Pessimist. Yeah, I don't see it being close. I think that the guys are ready. At least on paper. I'm taking these guys. They've prepared well. Had some inside information come in. I mean, everybody's healthy. Everybody looks good. They've had good practices all week down in Tampa. I've got to take.
There are still conflicting reports with Caden Proctor. I know that there were reports about a week ago that said that the nagging shoulder injury that he had that actually kept him out of the first 2 games this season, he was going to have surgery to fix that he was not going to play in this game. That news story broke right before Christmas, and then the very first practice after Christmas, it was almost like the Alabama media group was like, I don't know who said that, because every practice footage was of Caden Proctor practicing after that. It was almost like they made it a point.
As of now, I don't know. He's game time as of now.
That's what I read today.
I think that he's going to try to go. Is what
I will say. I will say this. I have been high on Kalen DeBoer since they hired him. I am still very, very high on him. I think that he took over a roster that was built by a defensive first coach. He is an offensive first coach, and it is going to take him some time to get his players in there to run his offensive system. You know, he was asked earlier in the year, how much of his offense did he have put in this first season? And he said, well, this really is not my offense. I've built this offense around Milroe. You're not really seeing my offense. I'm super high on him. I will say this. If they lose to Michigan with all the opt-outs and everything going on, okay, the last time we saw Michigan, they beat Ohio State. Michigan's not going to sneak up on you, or they shouldn't sneak up on you after what we saw Ohio State do to Tennessee. So they're not going to sneak up on you. You're not going to overlook them. You're not going to take them for granted. You're wanting to send your seniors out with a win, continue the 10-game winning streak. If they go lose this football game, I will start to have concerns.
Yeah, that is true. I look at it as the former, like you said. I don't think that he has got his team in there yet. And what I mean by that is, you know, earlier in the year, we talked about this on a separate occasion, to where the team that we see on the field was recruited by Nick Saban, and we may or may not have won first round draft pick, 2 at best. And that's
If Milroe goes, he's probably going to be a first round draft pick
rounder.
just because
Yeah,
just because there's not very many sure first round quarterbacks, and he
no.
is such an athletic specimen, just like an Anthony Richardson. He's going to go to the NFL
And
Combine.
they'll
He is going
develop
to
him.
show
Yeah,
out. He's going to run well. He's going to lift well. He's going to move well. Somebody's going to be enamored with him, and somebody's going to take him. Outside of that,
but that's it. You have one in
maybe
Milroe. Maybe
Jahad Campbell, maybe Tyler Booker, but they both play positions that normally don't get drafted in the first round. So
that's exactly
I
right.
don't.
And so that's kind of an oddity for Alabama. And then you look back at who recruited this class, and we're not throwing blame on anybody, but maybe the level of talent that came in was underdeveloped by the previous staff. And when Kalen DeBoer came in, it was sort of a roll with what we got, and then next year we'll see. And I think that's kind of where we're at. I have high hopes for him. I mean, if we keep the 10-win streak alive,
Give us your score. What you got?
I think it's not even going to be close. Give me Alabama, baby, to cover. I think we're 13.5 right now. I'm going 35-10 Alabama. Beatdown of epic proportions. Revenge, baby.
So the line I'm looking at currently is back at 11.5. I know it opened
dropped
up around 10. It had gotten up to 11.5. At one time, it was up to no, I'm sorry, it opened at 11.5. It has actually moved up to 14. So it has continued to climb. I just don't see that. I think Michigan's got too much pride. I do think Alabama wins. I'll say 24-13. Just under the spread. Just under.
Just under. Okay. Yeah, well, I base mine on the previous spread, and I'm sticking with it. It's going to be a beatdown, baby. They ain't ready for the Tide. LSU versus Baylor. My. And Baylor, well, Vegas knows something because Baylor is now is favored by 4 on the last line that I just looked at.
LSU opened up a 2.5-point favorite. There's been a few transfers. LSU does have a few opt-outs. From what I understand, Nussmeier's playing in this game. Nussmeier has said that he's coming back next season. For me, that's all I need to see. I think Nussmeier gets the job done in this one.
Yeah, Nussmeier. I don't know if Kyron Lacey or Aaron Anderson has opted out, but if one of those guys plays, you have a sure set target to go to. And maybe Vegas knows something that we don't. I don't see them beating LSU. I think that LSU's defense is going to be better than Baylor's offense. We know that LSU's defense loves to pressure. They bring pressure like on 62% of their plays. So if they pressure Baylor's quarterback, I don't think it's going to be a contest. And I got LSU winning 27-20.
Yeah, this is one of those to where, Dave Aranda, the coach at Baylor, he is a defensive-minded guy. We know that LSU's defense has struggled the last few years. It has actually gotten much better this year after they hired the defensive coordinator from Mizzou. He's come in, done a much better job. They brought Bo Davis in from Texas. Their defensive line's gotten a little bit better. LSU has actually only given up 23.8 points to Baylor's 25.2. I'm like you. I think LSU gets it done. I do think it'll be fairly close. I'm going to say LSU 27-20.
Love it. Oh, hey, same score. Good call.
Good call.
Ole Miss versus Duke. The Rebs facing off at Everbank Stadium. Tax Slayer Gator Bowl.
Rebs and Devils. This is one to where Ole Miss seems like they're a lot like what we're saying Alabama is. Everything I hear from Ole Miss, is telling me that they're locked in. I know Jackson Dart's playing in this football game. A lot of their other guys have opted in and playing. They're saying they want to go out with back-to-back 10-win seasons. They want to go out winning together and continue to build on the momentum they've had the last few years. I know Duke has lost their starting quarterback. He transferred, I believe, to Oregon State. They've been hit pretty hard with the transfer portal. That tells me all I need to hear. If Jackson Dart's playing, Duke starting quarterback's not playing, I like Ole Miss in this one.
It's a culture thing, man, and I do think that Lane Kiffin has created a winning culture at Ole Miss. He's on the cusp of being top tier in the SEC every single year, and with him beating Georgia this year and gaining traction, getting a couple of big wins on the road, you have to love the guy. I mean, you have to love the energy that he brings. I've got the Rebs in this one by a million. I love Lane Kiffin as a coach. He is hilarious on Twitter. And I've got Rebs by a million.
Well, I know the line opened up at 12. It is up to 17.5. I was not a big fan of Pete Golding. Pete Golding was the guy that, his defense, he's going to have a top 15, top 20 defense, but he would shut out two teams, and then the next team would score 45 points, and then you'd be sitting there looking at a team that only averaged giving up 15 points. They're just Pete Golding's defense just always kind of lacks the consistency week in or week out. It was always going to be really, really good, but there was always going to be a couple games to where they just got exposed. But he's doing a really good job with Ole Miss's defense. Their defense is improved since he's been there. I think the defense gets the job done. I think the offense puts up points. I like Ole Miss to cover in this one, 38-13.
I love it. Real quick, a shout out to the Mizzou Tigers on their big bowl victory just now. Hit the final 27-24 in a little comeback fashion in the second half. Brady Cook, 18 for 32 at 56 percentage completion with 287 yards passing and 2 tutties. Also, Brady Cook, 14 attempts, 54 yards on the ground. My God.
And he did that with Luther Burden opting out, and then Trey Weiss actually got hurt early in the second quarter, did not return, so he was down his best 2 receivers, and they actually fell behind by 10 in the third quarter. So Brady Cook actually put the team on his back and brought them back, and it was a much-needed bowl win for the SEC, especially
absolutely. Congrats on
against a Big Ten team.
Oh, yeah. Congrats to Mizzou. 10-win season, man. I mean, did they reach the 10-win mark last year? I can't remember.
Yes, if you remember last year, they actually beat Ohio State in a bowl game, and that's kind of what propelled them. Of course, Ohio State, when they missed the playoffs last year, they had a bunch of opt-outs and basically we're playing Ohio State's second team, but a win's a win, man.
Looking at the broad circumstance of what is college football now, what warms my heart about the SEC is that it truly means more. And for most of the teams that are playing in these bowl games, you're seeing starting quarterbacks stay and play. You're seeing starting running backs stay and play, given the account of Luther Burden being out of this one. But it just means more in the SEC. And when you have that type of culture in a conference, I mean, it's awesome. Football.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next game on the slate, the Cox, baby. The Cox versus the Fighting Illini. Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Love it. Down in Orlando, Camping World Stadium, 2 p.m. tomorrow. You got to love the Cox in this one, man. With the hot streak that they've been on, I know that was an argument and a case for them to get in the college football playoff. With the hot streak that they've been on, the way that Lenora Sellers and Rocket Sanders have just taken over the offense, and Beamer ball is in full effect. I'm taking the Cox by a million. I mean, Illinois' defense gives up 372 yards a game. The Cox averaged 313 yards a game, 5.96 yards a play on offense with 4.38 yards per attempt. I love the Cox. Not to mention, they have been battle-tested in their past 6 wins to where they have beaten in Oklahoma. They have beaten the Texas A&M. They have beaten the Vandy's and Mizzou's and Clemson. They have beaten teams that have gone 6-6 or better, all bowl eligible. You look at Illinois' previous schedule, and they can't say the same. I mean, their best wins on the season are 7-6 Rutgers and Nebraska. So I'm taking the battle-tested Cox in this one all day.
Yeah, obviously, if you've been around the SEC for a while, you'll be familiar with Brett Bielema, his style of play. He has an old school smash mouth, kind of grind it down your throat, want to shorten the game. So I do think it'll be a little bit closer. But yeah, when you start going down their schedule and you see, Eastern Illinois, Central Michigan, Purdue, a game that they won in overtime, 50-49. Purdue was 1-11.
Yep.
They did beat Michigan, 21-7, beat Michigan State. But for the most part, when you look at their resume, not one ranked win, not one win versus a team with 8 or more victories on the season. I mean, they've beaten a bunch of average to below average teams. The 3 halfway decent teams that they played, Minnesota beat them by 8, Oregon beat them by 29, Penn State beat them by 14. I'm with you. I think as long as South Carolina protects the football and Lenore Sellers stays upright and healthy, I do like South Carolina to win. I'm going to take the Cox by 14, 27-13.
And I actually shortchanged South Carolina. They averaged 410 yards a game. So, yes, I also think that Illinois' offense has not faced a defensive line that is as touted, absolutely unit in South Carolina. I think that Kennard and Stewart, I believe, are playing in this one. Don't quote me. I think with that defense, Illinois will not be able to lengthen drives and shorten the game out. And I think that Cox win. I'm going to go 28-13.
All right.
And these are some of the bowl results from our previous week. Oklahoma losing to Navy. That's embarrassing. Vandy.
Real quick on that. Real quick on that. Let me throw this out there. That was probably one of the worst coaching jobs I have ever seen. Again, okay, you're up 14-0. You're controlling the game. You've got a million opt-outs. I mean, a million people from Oklahoma have opted out of this bowl game. Their best defenders have opted out, receivers. I mean, Jackson Arnold. You're up 14-0 with the ball in your own territory, 4th and short, and you go for
it.
Navy has had no success at that point in time. You've got all the momentum. You go for it. They stop you. Then they score. It's 14-7. They get momentum. You then get the ball and you drive down the field. You get in field goal range, 4th and short, and you decide, hey, you know what? Let's just go for this thing again, man. You've got an opportunity to kick a field goal and go up by 10 points, 2 possessions, and you go for it and get stopped again. I don't know, man. I thought this was a terrible job coaching by Brent Venables all the way around. Hats off to Navy. They played great. They played hard. They never gave up. At least we had Arkansas and Vandy to rep the SEC and get a big win.
Hey, man, let me tell you what. Vanderbilt Commodores, Diego Pavier, he's got that magic in him, man. He's got that dog inside. And, it was one of those stats where you look at it at the end and you're like, that is Diego Pavier. I mean, he's only going to throw the ball 20 times a game. And if he completes 13, 14 and goes 62% and can throw 3 tutties, they're going to win the ball game. I mean, that's the magic of Diego Pavier. Because then he's going to turn around and he's going to scoot the boot and run for 82 yards on you with 2 more touchdowns with his legs. So phenomenal game for Diego. He's coming back.
And what was the biggest shock to me was Arkansas with all the transfers. I think they're up close to 30 guys that have hit the portal since this season has ended. I really thought Texas Tech would just absolutely wax them. Just hats off to Arkansas for that big win. One that got cut off from here. Another terrible job was just Texas A&M up 28-7 and just allowed USC to come back and win the game 35-31. I just don't know where the Mike Elko defense went. because USC was in the same predicament that Arkansas was in. They had a bunch of opt-outs. Miller Moss, which I know he had done, got replaced halfway through the year, but Zachariah Branch. They had several guys that had transferred, entered the transfer portal, were not playing in this game. They were shorthanded, and for Texas A&M to lose that football game, it's just a disaster in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. The wind came out of the sails after that South Carolina loss, and it just stayed deflated.
Yeah,
So
and really after that Auburn loss. I mean, I think they
oh
ended up
yeah,
losing, 4 of their last 5 down the stretch. Just awful ending of the season for Texas
they
A&M.
sure, yeah, absolutely. And with that, we come to the final segment of today's episode with our final thoughts. Mr. Randall from Mobile, do you have any final thoughts for us this week?
Yeah, my final thoughts is with these bowl games and all the opt-outs, it's really hard to keep up with who's playing, who's not playing, who's opted in, who's opted out. Part of me feels like, if you're getting paid now and you're getting NIL money, you should finish it out and see it through and finish the season. My final thought, though, is a question to you, and we can discuss this for a few minutes here. What do you make of the Cam Ward situation? Played the first half just so he could set a record and then opted out the second half. Now, I have heard reports that this was predetermined, that the team knew he was going to do this, that everybody was fine with it. I know you're never going to come out and say that beforehand, but to me, if you're going to do this, the only way you're not going to look like a douchebag would be for the coach, for Mario Cristobal, to come out and announce before the game, hey, Cam Ward wants to play. We also want to use the second half as kind of a spring practice to start building for next year and see what we've got. So we're going to let him play the first half. If you announce that beforehand, then I don't think everybody's looking at Cam Ward as being, public enemy number 1 today. But when you don't announce that and you play one half just to set a record, then you opt out and you end up losing the way they lost, that's just not going to go over well. Yep.
And you did it, Randy. You opened the can. This is what NIL has done to college football as we know it. You hear Coach Saban all the time. He's really harped on this year. I truly believe that this is why he left. He stepped away from this because he knew it would get to this, and we have put power into the players' hands. I understand it. I'm happy that they're getting paid. They put their bodies on the line. They draw in money for their school. Yes, they should get paid something. But to the extent that we have put so much power into their hands without a players' association, without contracts, players are not buying into the programs anymore. And it's loosey-goosey. You have transformational versus transactional coaching nowadays, to where we throw a price at kids, they take the bait, and there's no loyalty to programs anymore. And it is selfish. It is selfish to take yourself out of a game to where there's no ties to the team that you're playing for. You don't care about the person next to you, and that's what football is founded upon. It is founded upon playing for the guy next to you, offering up your body and saying, "Look, I'm going to go out here. I'm going to block for you. You go get your name in the paper. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to run this route. I'm going to get open. I may not get the ball, but maybe it'll open up somebody next to me. I make a mistake, my brother's going to lift me up." It is selfless. It is a selfless sport that has been turned selfish.
Well, and here's my thing about the bowl games that I'm tired of hearing. I'm so tired
They
of hearing
don't matter.
they don't matter. It's just a meaningless bowl game. Here's my thoughts on this, okay? Especially in this transfer portal world in which we live in. Every team that's not in the playoff, and even some of the playoff teams. I mean, look at Penn State. Their backup quarterback who played meaningful snaps this season. He opted out of the playoffs to go into the transfer portal so he could go sign somewhere else and be enrolled in the spring. The guy's just a sophomore. He's got time to go play somewhere. You're in a playoff run. That there's so much selfishness. But my thing is, every team when it comes to bowl season is hit with transfers. So what you're going to have is you're going to have some redshirt seniors. You're going to have some guys that are going into this bowl game that know this is the last time I'm ever going to play football. I'm not good enough to go to the NFL. I'm not going to get drafted. I'm not even going to sign as an undrafted free agent. This is it for me. This is it for me. And when you've got people like Cam Ward who go and play a half, okay, we obviously know leading up to bowl preparation that he was getting some of the work. He was getting some of the practice reps. So he was taking away from every person on that Miami roster that went into the bowl game and knew they were playing their last game. He took away an opportunity for their last memory on a football field to be going out as a winner because of his selfishness. If you're not going to play, then at least completely opt out and give the backup every rep to try and get prepared to go win a game. Yeah, but my thing is you've got guys that are playing in their last game, and you rob them. You rob them of an opportunity to win the last game that they ever played in. It's not meaningless. It's not meaningless.
Think about how much preparation went in for this bowl game, and he got all the number one reps. The guy behind him didn't even get that many number one reps as he did going into this game to prepare.
You want to know who says that bowl games are meaningless? The people that say bowl games are meaningless, it's going to be people that are sports writers and people that are in the media that never played a down of football in their lives, and they don't know what goes into the preparation for a football game. They don't know what goes into it. If you really and truly knew the preparation from film study to practice to all the drills to all the off-season workouts to get you into that point, sure, you may say it's meaningless at that point. But for you to say it's meaningless, you don't understand all that. The sad thing about it is the playoffs have taken away the reward of bowl season. Bowl season was always a time to reward teams for above average seasons. And now we've created, because of all the TV drama and all the media input, we've created this belief system that it's playoffs or bust. And if you don't make it to the playoffs, then you're just going to a meaningless bowl game.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's my final thoughts rant for the night.
Hey, man, that's good enough for both of us because it is a rant. It is a rant.
Absolutely.
You know what, chat? Comment below in the comments. What was your growing up non-playoff, pre-playoff 2014? What was your favorite bowl game memory for your favorite team all time? Let's just have some happiness this evening in the chat.
Also, a lot of these bowl games are starting tomorrow. Tomorrow, New Year's Eve, December 31st, we're airing this. I'm hopeful we get this uploaded tonight, December the 30th. But if you get a chance to listen to this before the bowl games and the playoff games on Wednesday, January the 1st, we do have every bowl game that we have talked about tonight on the group page on SEC Mafia's Facebook, to where you can go and comment and predict your scores. So please interact and do that.
Absolutely. Again, SEC Mafia contact info, baby. It's here. You can pause it right now on the video. Give us a like on everything. Follow us on everything. Make sure on YouTube you subscribe to us. And when you subscribe, go to the page, click the little bell button to make sure you get notifications about when we upload videos. That way, right when we upload it, you know it's there. You can have it on your Safari, Google, whatever, and you can go back to it later. Again, we appreciate everything, guys. We love doing this. We love being able to just talk ball once a week with everybody.
Everybody have a good New Year. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Root the SEC on this week, baby. SEC Mafia out.